I was lucky in that I, was friends with Robert Crumb, who was one of the greatest, cartoonists of all time. And I met him when I was 22 years old and he was 19. He had gotten out of high school, and then he just laid around the house in Philadelphia for about a year, and then he came to Cleveland and moved in with a guy he'd been corresponding with. So he was right around the corner, and actually, what we had in common at that time, were was that we were record collectors. But he showed me some of his work, and I was blown away. I thought, yeah, and that's what got me thinking about, that comics could you could do just about anything you wanted to in comics. At that time, he was working on a graphic novel. This was 1962, which was, one of the first graphic novels called The Big Yum Yum Book, although it didn't get published until 1975. And I'd never seen anything like it. It was, although, it was influenced by Harvey Kurtzman to some extent. And Crumb had actually worked with Kurtzman when he was, even when he was working in Cleveland, with American Greetings Corporation. So we stayed in touch over the years, and and I kept on theorizing about how comics could do anything, and how the reason that they had kind of a bad name with the general public was because the people who produced them had such limited concepts of what could be done with them, and it just wound up being practically all superhero stuff, which is fine for the kids who like that kind of thing, but most people don't have a lot of use for it. So you had a kind of a limited market. So when I saw what Crumb was doing, I thought, geez, this is great, but it can be taken way farther. I mean, there's room for all kinds of different things. There's never been a realist movement in comics, for example, and I thought, well, I'll get into that. So in '72, he came to my apartment. He was on, he used to take an annual trip across the United States and stop in at all these places where he knew people and stay a couple of weeks and then move on to the next place. So he was staying with me, and I wrote a couple of scripts. Well, actually, I wrote, more than a couple. I wrote a stack of scripts, using kind of a storyboard style, just real crude, but I put the dialogue in and everything, and I showed it to Crumb. I said, "Do you think this has any potential?" And he said, "Yeah, can I take it home with me?" He liked it. He said, "Can I take it home and do some of it?" So that gave me a huge break. Crumb worked on my comic book for a pretty long time, for some years. And he did, and at some points he did big, ambitious stories he'd illustrate. So, people would initially would buy the thing because, of Crumb's name. But then, gradually, my stuff, what I was doing started to, get out. I thought that just getting paid for the movie you know was all I was going to get out of it, and I got paid a pretty good amount of money. So I was I wasn't looking for anything after that. But what happened was that they I guess the producers of the movie wanted to get out a companion volume of American Splendor. So they came up with this volume of American Splendor, and it's about 300 and some pages long, and amazingly, it sold. I haven't had I had not never had an experience of any any of my books selling fairly well, but this did. And that opened it up for me, with not only at Random House, where I got another 4-book contract, but, with other publishers. And that's the way principal way I make my living today. I get a pension, but it doesn't amount to much. I couldn't live on it with my wife. We couldn't make it. Well, it's got unlimited potential. I mean, any art form where you can use any word in the dictionary, all the words Shakespeare used, like he doesn't have a copyright on them. You can use any word you want. You can use the vast variety of illustration styles. I mean, they're very comparable to movies. I mean, both of them use words and pictures. Movies use moving pictures and spoken words, and comics use still pictures and silent. They use pictures and written words. So I think they're very comparable. Also, some of my work has been developed into plays besides this motion picture, American Splendor. Some of it, on 3 occasions, it's been presented, on stage, and it's gotten good reaction. And a lot of times they'll use the stories just exactly as they get them. So I think comics have gotten off to such a rotten start. Although certainly some people are making a lot of money in comics. But, I mean, considering what comics can do, I mean, they've been tremendously limited by the people that produce them. And they should be able to just do any kind of story that you want to do. Superhero comics. I mean, superheroes are not even they're a genre of a genre. They're science fiction books. And yet they're still, by far the most popular comic books. Now that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, like science fiction books, I have nothing against science fiction books, but science fiction books don't dominate the book trade. Why should they dominate comics? You should have all kinds of different books in comic form. And you can. People have gradually extended the medium, and they've been very successful at it. Like, for instance, Joe Sacco, who, was a trained journalist, an outstanding, journalism student at Portland State University, and, real interested in politics, and went out and showed that you could do real good journalism in comics. Other people have done other things comparable, but there haven't been enough of them. And so I don't think that comics are I don't think that people realize how good comics are and can be, at their best.